Zootopia is the favorite movie of millions of people around the world, or at least it was until the big release of Zootopia 2. But did everyone who watched the movie actually notice the massive amount of jokes, references, and even clever animal puns that are hidden in this new adventure starring Judy and Nick? If there's one animal that shows up a lot in Zootopia besides rabbits, foxes, and snakes, it's sheep, as we're about to show you very clearly in a moment. For example, when Judy and Nick are leaving the police department, if you look closely you'll notice that there are 2 sheep carved into the public clock standing right in front of the building. The same thing can be seen in the reptile bar on the chandelier hanging above the turtle's table, where you can see that it's literally shaped like a snake, which makes total sense since that place belongs to the reptile crowd.
Order up!
But besides small background details, the movie is filled with nods to older Disney films, which we'll show as well, and also to classic children's stories, like The 3 Little Pigs. We can notice that in this same scene outside the police building, where there's a wolf talking to, guess what, 2 little pigs. The third one must have gone out to buy some bricks. Quite a coincidence, don't you think? And get ready because this same wolf shows up several more times in the movie and nobody noticed. At least not until now. And buckle up, because we even found a Lion King reference in this new adventure with Nick and Judy. Let's blow your mind with this stuff. When we see Nick scrolling through his favorite streaming service, we get a full swarm of animal puns that we're going to explain one by one. For example, there's Hulu Zoo, which is obviously a parody of the streaming service Hulu, owned by Disney. Even Disney made fun of itself, since in the animal version, the company is called Deersney. We also get Ramdor, the sheep version of Andor, which makes sense since ram literally means male sheep. The sci-fi horror franchise Alien became Platypus, a clear reference to the fact that the platypus is one of the only mammals that also lays eggs, which is highlighted in the logo. We also see that Die Hard, one of the most famous action franchises of the 90s, turned into Die Hard. Moving on to parodies of well-known animated shows. Even Futurama, the sister series of The Simpsons, has an animal version called Future Llama, and Gravity Falls became nothing less than Pig City Falls. Speaking of pigs, at the very top there's also a spoof of Pixar that simply became Pigsar. Disney's sports channel ESPN turned into Elks, and Marvel Studios became Mammal Studios. Pretty creative, honestly. Speaking of Marvel, if you weren't paying attention you definitely missed the quick reference to the strongest Avenger of them all, Thor, but in his horse version, on the comic book lying on Nick's coffee table in his apartment, right when Judy calls his phone. Which actually makes a lot of sense because it seems like Nick is really into comic books. He even has a box labeled comics on his shelf. And this moment where we see Thor's little comic book is absolutely hilarious, because we can see that her name is saved as Carrots, and Judy's photo is literally that shocked face she makes every time she finds something out. Just like in the previous scene, when she realizes that the runaway anteater's van was the exact same model as the ones being used at the Linksley's party. There are 2 certainties in life. Earth is round, and Mickey will always show up in a Disney movie. And we can see that happening in Zootopia 2 when Judy opens the flipbook with the info about the gala party. And if you pause the movie at the right moment, you'll notice that the restroom icons, both the female and the male ones, have that famous shape of Mickey Mouse's head, which is basically the official trademark of the company. Without a doubt, the moment with the most hidden details in the whole movie is their visit to the swamp market. Like in the scene where Nick and Judy have just arrived in the neighborhood and we can see a seal who works at the fish processing company completely giving in to temptation and grabbing a fish with his mouth right off the conveyor belt. That's also where we discover that the local biker club is called River Hogs. But there's also a double meaning to that name, since hogs is also a slang term used to refer to Harley-Davidson motorcycles, the most beloved bikes in the world of stylish cruising motorcycle fans.
Nice.
And inside the reptile bar, we can spot a pun with the beer brand called Bug Light, which is an obvious reference to the American beer brand Bud Light, which makes total sense since reptiles love insects like flies and other bugs. Plus, now's the time to do the right thing. So go ahead and click the subscribe button below and give us that extra support so we can keep making awesome videos like this one. Right at the beginning of the movie, when Nick and Judy arrive at Zootopia's station, they're disguised as, look at that, a couple with a tiny baby, which feels very suggestive to me and kind of hints at something that will probably happen in the future. But the most interesting part isn't even the undercover act from our hero duo. It's actually the absurd amount of wordplay written all over the shipping containers at the port. Right away we can see a logistics company called Mirkt, which is a clear reference to Meerkat. Even the company logo kind of gives away the joke. And this could easily be a nod to the most famous meerkat in animation history, Timon, the one everyone knows from The Lion King, one of Disney's greatest classics. And right behind the corrupt inspector, we can see another pun with the name of a different company called Happy Llama, which is maybe a reference to another Disney classic, The Emperor's New Groove. But among all the references to the big old classic Disney movies, the most blatant one definitely happens at the Zootennial Gala celebration, where inside the event's kitchen we can see a tiny mouse under the chef's hat of one of the kitchen assistants, who is a lion, which is a clear reference to the amazing 2007 movie Ratatouille with the little chef mouse. Another classic honored in this new Nick and Judy adventure is The Little Mermaid. It happens in the scene where the police duo is at the swamp market, and we can see a shop called Ariel's Grocery. Ariel is exactly the name of the main character from Disney's 90s hit. Back at the port scene, if you blinked, you missed the moment when Inspector Anteater was getting his weekly bribe delivered by the Lynx, who is part of the family that secretly controls the whole city. After the corrupt inspector runs away, the duo comes up with the brilliant idea of requesting the pig car, which couldn't have been more fitting since the front of the car clearly has the shape of a pig's snout, and its license plate says nothing less than hoink, which is obviously the sound pigs always make. Speaking of animal sounds, of course a barbershop for sheep couldn't have a more perfect name than Baba, right? And if we're talking about jokes, nothing makes more sense than the famous saying wolf in sheep's clothing, which Zootopia takes literally, because in the sheep neighborhood, where the chase happens at 100 miles per hour, we can clearly see that the only animal that isn't a goat on that street is exactly a wolf. And guess what? He's buying an outfit that's probably made with sheep's wool. No doubt this was a pretty clever touch from the movie's animators. And apparently this is the same wolf from the scene with the two little pigs that we mentioned at the start of the video. Oh, before I forget, did you notice the name of the movie that was playing right before Judy crashes into the dumpster full of sheep's wool? Well, the movie is called Star Trunk, which is a clear reference to the longest-running sci-fi franchise in space history, Star Trek. But this isn't the only reference to elephant trunks, because right above Nick's apartment there's a gym that's literally called Gym Trunks, and you can clearly see it's huge and totally built for the largest land mammals in existence. Oh, remember when we mentioned that wolf who pops up several times throughout the movie? Well, there he is again, standing right in front of the elephant's gym. Back in the sheep district, if you're really sharp, you probably noticed that the owner of the barbershop and the owner of the clothing store where the wolf buys his disguise are most likely the same person. After all, sheep go to the barbershop to get their wool trimmed, and that wool is sent right across the street afterward to become clothes for characters like that wolf we see in the scene. And the batch of wool that Judy ran over was coming straight from the salon and heading to the clothing store. If you're not very familiar with Los Angeles, California, you might never have heard of Mulholland Drive, a scenic highway that stretches for 21 miles through the Santa Monica Mountains. But of course, in Zootopia, it would be renamed Mulholland Tunnel, a clear reference to the moles who would definitely be working in the infrastructure department of the most animal-packed city in the world. And of course, we couldn't ignore the Mammal World version of New Jersey, which over there is called GNU Jersey. Man, that one was brilliant. Now be honest with me, did you notice that behind the memorial of Zootopia's original founder there are two buildings that literally have antelope horns on them? Yeah, if you blinked, you probably missed this amazing detail too. When Judy presents the evidence to Chief Bogo, we can see that inside the binder there are multiple references to Inspector Snootley, the corrupt anteater who was captured during the operation triggered by the bunny and her fox partner. And in there we can also spot several ant references, which is exactly the favorite food of anteaters, making it clear these are more hidden puns throughout the movie. Among the animal-based puns in the movie, we definitely can't skip the ones we see on the soda machine. In the animal world, the Coca-Cola equivalent is called Koala Cola, not to mention the Zootopia Mammal World version of 7-Up, which is called Bubble Pup, meaning something like bubbly puppy, if we translated it literally. When Judy is on the subway heading home, we can notice that on the top interior part of the train car, there's an ad for an airline called Air Caribou, and its logo is exactly the symbol of Canada, which makes total sense since caribou are one of the national symbols of the country that borders the United States. When Judy turns on the TV in her tiny apartment, if you pause at the exact moment, you'll see that besides cash and the grand prize, one of the options on the Wheel of Fortune is nothing less than cheese. I've got to admit, that one won me over. Cheese really is one of the best things in the world. Oh, and the news channel in Zootopia is called ZNN, while here in our world, it's CNN. And Google, of course, becomes Zoozle, which honestly makes total sense, don't you think? Since we know you love videos full of references, details, and Easter eggs, we're leaving two really cool ones, so you can stay right here with us. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.